Mr. Chair, you are now live.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. This is the January 2021 meeting of the Maritime Advisory Board. We have a quorum, so we will get started. Let's start with the motion. Everybody did get a copy of the December minutes, which Tammy had set out earlier, and I didn't see any changes after we sent them out. Tammy, did I give you some changes?
No.
Okay, I'm just thinking about November then. So is there a motion to approve the minutes from the December meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor that were there at the December meeting? Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, Tammy, the minutes are approved. Just taking things in order. Rick, any update from MIAB?
No, not really. Our meeting in December was canceled, so there has not been a meeting of that group since our last meeting. So, really don't have anything to report.
What was the status? I'm trying to remember what the status was when you last told us of the economic report.
It had been, a preliminary report had been circulated to the board. And I guess it was back in October that we went over it, made a few suggestions. I think the major change that the board wanted was that they wanted to see more of an emphasis on the, I guess, the percentage of the economic impact that the county had in relation to the state, because it really wasn't made very clear in the original presentation.
Okay.
So, and nothing has been circulated since, so I guess that will be at our meeting next week.
All right. Hope, are you filling in for Stephen?
I am, yes. So the only thing we have on our end, in case you missed it on Friday, there was a YouTube conference or video conference for the City Dock Action Committee. So they gave you a chance to meet the consultants and the contractors who are working on the City Dock redevelopment project. So if you hadn't had a chance to watch it, you can see it on the city's YouTube page.
And that one was that meeting last Friday?
It was on Friday, yes.
Right. All right. What is the status of, and Mike, you might know this too, is wearing your EBA hat, of the outdoor dining, parking lots, Main Street, etc. Is that, obviously it's still ongoing, but is there a timeline for ending that, or is there a timeline for keeping it in place?
There is no timeline. It's in line with the state of emergency, the mayor's state of emergency. So right now it's continuing.
Okay.
So that we can ramp it up maybe when the warmer weather comes.
When the warmer weather comes, everybody will want it to have it in place. Want it to still be there.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
It's been interesting how it's worked. Duncan is not on, but I don't believe there's any update on the status of the comprehensive plan. I haven't seen anything since Duncan last reported about the update in November, unless Hope, you happen to know something that I'm not aware of, but I haven't seen anything new. Maritime Task Force. So that is moving along. There is a meeting on the 29th, the large group meeting, which I think hopefully they will have some firm recommendations coming out of that. I know various groups have been, the subgroups have been meeting. The Maritime Sustainability Group, which I am a member of, or on the panel of, or whatever you want to call it, the subgroup, has met. A subgroup met, and they are circulating some initial recommendations for modification of the table of uses, which is sort of the starting point. The uses is the starting point, and then from that, it will devolve into what are the standards, all sometimes referred to as triggers that go with that. But that's where the devil is in the detail, is in coming up with either current standards that already exist, maintaining those, tweaking those, adding new standards for new uses. Will be the meat of that group. I haven't heard anything about, well, Debbie, you might know, you're on one of the groups.
I'm on Mike Tomasini's group.
Okay,
We haven't
that's right.
done
That's right.
anything.
So
recently.
maybe you all could update us what's happening with your oldest group.
Mike?
Yeah, our group hasn't met in probably a couple of weeks, right, Debbie? I've met both as co-chair of my group with the residents who live in the city who were also on the task force. I've also had meetings with an industry group that included Pat Shaughnessy and some others who were more industry-based than property owner-based. Yeah, and I've done a few Eastport resident interviews, as I'm sure Vic Pasco, who's the co-chair, has also done, just reaching out to people who are close to the Maritime districts and may or may not have some opinions as to, how things proceed.
All right, were you aware of the meeting on the 29th? We haven't had invites yet, but I just got that date from Eileen. I'm sort of a save the date.
I did. I got a quick statement today on that. And then also all of the co-chairs, I think, are supposed to get together this week on Thursday in the morning, just to kind of circle back and see where things stand.
Okay. So it is moving forward. The goal is, from what I understand, is to have something ready to go to council in the spring, which we're not that far away, so that we can get something accomplished for a change. Scott, are you raising your hand, or you just?
I'm raising my. Terry, have you had any understanding of what increase in non-maritime use might be negotiated in these different zones? No conversation.
I mean, I know that in terms of the use for non-maritime has been put in all of the zones, but the issue, the percentages all become part of the standards, and that's not been sorted out. And I think that obviously WMM already has non-maritime office use. WME, WMI do not. They're probably not going to be all the way on par with each other, but certainly I would expect some new availability of use, non-maritime use in all of the zones at this point. But again, it's all going to be based on the standards, and that all deals with the input from some of the other subgroups too.
Well, WMI, which has been 100% maritime since the inception of it, could sure use some help with that.
So could WME. They've been 100% also, and they're only 4 blocks from WMM, which has been 30/70. So the competition has been tough for everybody. On the no discharge zone, I have no application on, no update on that.
I have one, Terry.
But you do, good.
Yep. I corresponded with Donna Morrow late December, and she said that she checked in with the EPA in Philadelphia on December 15th. They anticipated that this no discharge zone request would be final by the end of the month, which would have been December. She said they're very close, so she would expect to hear soon, since the government has continued to be open. Following the federal determination, then the Maryland Department of the Environment and Donna will work to craft state regulations in consultant with the Coast Guard. Those will not be submitted until after the legislative session, and should take another couple of months to grind through the system. So they anticipate everything being finalized by the summer.
What was there any public comment period with EPA?
I think yes, there was.
I guess I wasn't on the mailing list.
Yeah, 'cause I commented, so
Okay.
there was.
Okay. Well, we'll just all stay tuned. The charter doc policy statement, Debbie, you can fill us in, and I hope everybody got the email I sent earlier today from Ashley regarding what the status was, and it, like the NDZ, it's working its way through the process of approval. But I guess it's in the Office of Law at the moment, but Debbie, you can fill us in on that.
I really don't have anything more than what you sent out today. I think she accepted the language modifications that we had offered. But she said it had to go through a couple of different spots in the city and then it would go to council.
Right. And I think she was thinking about what I got, the impression I got from the email is we're a couple of months away.
Probably. However, they are continuing to take reservations for the charter doc.
Okay.
Yeah, which is good.
Under the old application or the?
I haven't actually seen it, but it's now an email process, Beth, right?
So the application that we're using is one that Ashley has approved and we have worked on. And it's the same one, I believe, that she submitted to council for approval. So just for the group's benefit, there are several contracts, I guess I would call them contracts, like our annual mooring contract or our charter dock contract, that have all been submitted to council for approval. So I think that Ashley felt, and I agree with her, it would be good if all of this stuff was formalized and everybody agreed with the terms. And so the last one that Ashley and I worked on is the one that we're using now. And she has submitted it all to IT. And IT, and so I think Ashley's getting on the calendar for the council to say, here's 5, I think there's 5. It's like winter storage, annual moorings, charter dock contract. I don't even know what the other 2 are. Maybe there's 5 of them to say, we would like this to be formalized and we would like everyone to agree on this policy, which is actually a binding contract for each party that goes forward. And I think it's smart to do so. So that's what we're working on.
All right. Once again, we'll just somewhat stay tuned. Is there any change in status of any street and park improvements? Hearing none.
I missed what you said.
So we had on the agenda with the city was doing some upgrades to some of the street and parks, and I wondered if we had any update on
Yeah,
that.
sure. I have some updates. So Lafayette is almost finished. Cheston is under contract for architecture and engineering. I think it's going to be a great project. 6th Street, I believe, is also under, like, we've accepted and I apologize, I'm not an engineer, but I believe we've accepted the proposal for architecture and engineering for 6th Street as well. And then there are 4 more street ends. Thompson, Conduit, Amos Garrett, and 3rd Street on the Spa Creek side. We've accepted, I think we're accepting a grant for another $250,000 for that project. And then we applied for another $250,000 because 4 is a lot. And the city manager sort of said, you know what, let's finish what we started. Let's don't try to do even more stuff. So we're waiting to hear about the other $250,000, but in the meantime, I'm going to work to start those other 4 projects. So things are moving slow but fast for government.
Beth, a question for you. I was down on 3rd Street, the end of 3rd Street, and you're saying they're going to work on some projects, not others. Will 3rd Street be worked on? Do you know?
So 3rd Street, yes, on the Spa Creek side.
It really needs help because
yeah, we're hoping for
full of mud right now.
we're hoping for a floating dock with a ladder I haven't had the engineers out there. They might have some different or better ideas. But the main thing is we have the money to get started.
That's good. They need to raise the land up because even with a floating dock, you have to walk through water to get up to wherever you're going. About half the time.
Yeah, I don't know. I've got my, I've
I know.
got too many projects going on at one time because we're
Let's
also
hope they can
starting
fix
to
it.
do an improvement at Tucker Street. And we're also trying to do an improvement over at Truxton Park. So there are too many projects. There is a lot of grant funding, and we're hoping that we can keep our fingers in all these different.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, this is the end of Mike's street, so Mike's probably very familiar with it. If he's still
Yes,
here.
and the talk was years ago, I mean, probably several administrations ago now, that the end of Third Street would get, at least the very end of Third Street where the bulkhead was, would get some kind of rain garden treatment like the end of Fourth Street has, even though it's not as elevated there, but something to keep kind of putting in an elbow from the storm drain there that comes up at least to the bulkhead height, so that when the tide comes in, it doesn't then inundate that lower end of Third Street. But that was a real project, and I think that one got shelved because of money. I don't think that, the access there is pretty good. I'm not sure how wide a floating dock or what kind of ladder, but I think the real issue for a fix at the end of Third Street is more managing the storm water and the tidal rise there than anything
Right.
else.
So I would love it if I could
Higher land.
have a meeting with you, Mike, in the next maybe 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
I don't have a vision there. I know it needs help, but I don't really have a vision. So I would love to meet you with like an engineer and see what your thoughts are, because I don't see the tide ebb and flow, and I don't see the use. So you might know some things that I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm there
absolutely.
quite often, and I'd be happy to join the meetings. I'm going down to the other side of the street there at Atlantic Cruising Yachts, and half the time you can't access it at the end of the street. You got to walk back up the street and come in a parking lot and go to it.
Yeah, I would love to have some more local knowledge there.
So
That
let me
sounds
know.
good.
Happy to help.
And also regarding the street ends, I met with the mayor a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about access and the water taxis. And I brought up the perennial challenge of having the street ends at some of the street end parks blocked by lots of resident dinghies. And that was something that he was not aware of. And I don't know if he mentioned that to you, Beth, or not, but he did feel that they needed to have access so that people could use the water taxis.
So he didn't mention it, but I will tell you that DNR has said, we do not want to see that, or we will not give you any more money. So I'm not sure what to do about that, because Title 15 doesn't address it. So if you're a mooring ball person and you have a right to keep your dinghy there and you choose to lock your dinghy onto the dock, there isn't really an enforcement action that I can take. But DNR has said, you know what, we really don't want to improve that because we feel like this is private and not for everyone that's public. So I guess I see that Ashley joined. And so maybe I really only sort of discovered all this today. So maybe I'll speak with her this week about that.
Well, Terry, my recollection is that when they went in, it was so that the public could have access to the water and they could bring canoes and kayaks down there and get into the water.
It was, I mean, that goes back to 2004,
When
I
Hector-
think was the last time there was any major effort to improve some of the street end parks. And I think it only did 3 or 4. It wasn't wholesale improvement. And over time, what has happened is, and I see it more on Spa Creek than I do on Back Creek, but that, residents either, and maybe they have a boat on a mooring, but more likely they just keep a dinghy there. And I've tried to go, come up to those docks, and, you have to nudge your way in if you're going to try to get in at all. But Beth, I think one of the things to do would be when these engineers or these architects are talking, coming up with designs, they probably, at least on the ones that Watermark, the water taxis access, probably ought to coordinate with Watermark and the water taxis in that design, just to make sure that they're not doing something that cuts off the access for water taxis on those street ends where water taxi service is available.
I mean, I think I need to study it a bit more because, to be honest, our enforcement has been pretty good. And so I would like to think that there are far fewer, but maybe Jake can speak to this. If I'm wrong, I need to see what the problem is. So if there's like literally one street ending, I don't want to put in new rules in Title 15 because our mooring customers do need access to their boats and they do pay a reasonable fee to have their mooring. So my hunch is with only 30 mooring balls and a multitude of street ends, we could entertain all of those dinghies. It's only 30 for the whole entire Spa Creek and still have plenty of room for the water taxi, assuming there are no violations. That's my hunch.
My recollection is that the sort of the log jam is at like Lafayette, help me out, that's a major one. Maybe Acton Cove.
Acton Cove is a big one, yeah,
There's another one.
Southgate.
I don't know how the end of 4th Street, I mean, the end of Burnside or those, I don't get the sense that those are as jammed up as the downtown side of Spa Creek.
Has there ever been a thought of allocating, Beth, when one rents a mooring to get a card or a chit that says you're assigned to this street end, and then you spread them out so they're not jams? That probably help the water taxi too.
I mean, I wouldn't be interested in doing that until I understand that there's a problem on a particular street end. And in almost 5 years, that's not been the information I've been given. That doesn't mean it's not happening, but it just means that I don't know that someone's saying like, oh, this street end is a problem.
Debbie probably knows as much as anyone on that.
Yeah, we get pictures all the time, so I'll make sure that they get sent to you. I mean, we're not working right now, but in season, I'd be happy to send you the pictures that the captains send me regularly.
The main thing is just as these street ends get improved, that everybody just stay coordinated with all of the users, including the water taxis, so that at least the design features are adequate for all the users. Whether they get hogged by somebody or not is something else again, but at least the design is taking into account all the users. So,
I mean, in theory, if we add a floating dock to 6 street ends, you should be increasing your surface area by at least double. So maybe you only have 6 or 8 feet at the front, but then now you have 3 feet on either side. So in theory, that should help a little, I'm hoping.
Well, that hasn't been the case, and they've been there for quite a while, but I'm happy to send pictures, and I can send you a list in email of the ones that we had a regular challenge with.
Yeah.
Thanks.
We're happy to work on it.
and I doubt if it's going to be an issue much before April.
Correct.
You don't want to go in a dinghy right now?
No, think not. All right.
Hey, Terry, it's Mike. Real quick before we move on, there were a couple of items on the Port Wardens meeting before the holidays. One was a city project next to Fleet Reserve that was being considered. Beth, I was wondering if they were going to do a site visit. The Port Wardens were going to do a site visit on that site and talk about what the changes were going to be made there. Do you know if that went forward?
It did go forward and it was approved.
Okay. And then the other one, kind of hot here in Eastport, a couple of people have mentioned it to me because they know I'm on the Maritime Advisory Board, is the access in what's called the Blue Heron condominiums area there off of Boucher.
So I have a hard time understanding this situation, but from what I understand, let me try to remember. from what I remember, is it's not truly a city right of way. I think.
I think the city has the right of way. At the end of the right of way, it's a small path in between a group of condos and private residence. And where it ends on the creek is a city storm drain, a rather large one, must drain.
Yeah, and it's causing all this silting in. It's horrible.
Yeah, must drain half of Eastport there. And then there's the city years ago put in a weir to try and prevent some of the garbage and the silt from silting in and sending garbage into the creek every time it rained.
Okay.
The next private property owner down has a pier that runs kind of parallel to the access point, and had put in a floating dock without a permit, and then was asking for a permit kind of after the fact. And it's
Okay, that's ringing a bell.
yeah, so the residents, and there are a pretty large number of them, are concerned that the approval of that floating dock is going to limit any future access at that site. If the city were to try and put in any kind of access or potentially a water taxi stop or something like that, it would impede that access by permitting that floating dock.
So we should talk about this after I talk to Sally Nash.
Okay.
Because I need to be better informed to be able to speak about it. And I think it's a P&Z issue and not a harbor master issue.
Right.
And I only have like a few of the details. So I'm happy to talk with you, but I need a couple days to talk to Sally.
Okay, no problem.
So Mike, are you talking about at Hawkins Cove?
No, it's the next cove up. I should know it because I lived there for a little bit, but
Wells?
yeah, is it Wells Cove? Back in the corner, the left after you go by what was Levinson's house, and then it's the
Yeah,
next
it's
cove
Wells.
immediately. Yeah,
It has
before you get to President's
newer
Court.
condos.
Yeah.
And it's still on the agenda for under old business for the port wardens. This
For Port Warden.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes. So it's not been resolved.
Thanks, Tammy.
All right. Anything else, Mike?
No, good.
All right. I circulated, the next item on the agenda is the annual report. I circulated the draft annual report to everybody. I did not get any suggested changes. I'll throw it open. Does anybody have any suggested changes? At this point, also, I did circulate the attendance report, and I didn't get any updates to that. Although I was telling Julian and those that were on earlier, I was in looking at the attendance report after April. We were remarkable. We had a remarkably high percentage of attendance once we went to Zoom. So it we may think we might want to keep that format because it obviously it makes it much more convenient for everybody to participate because the attendance was up. But that being said, do I have a motion to approve the annual report?
So moved.
Second. Somebody second. Okay. Scott,
I'll second.
Tammy. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
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 All right, the annual report is adopted and I will put it on letterhead and I will send it into Regina tomorrow morning so that we have it almost close to the 15th at this point. Ashley, we had already talked about that. I had circulated the letter regarding the email that you had sent regarding the charter, city dock charter. What I did not cover, and I will now, is, but everybody got, regarding the Burtis House, that the city is still working on a survey and a legal description for the Burtis House, which will hopefully be done by the end of this month. And I take it that's a condition in advance of the actual transfer.
Yeah, the state, for whatever reason, does not currently have a good survey or legal description of the main property or the wharf areas. So part of the deal is the city would do that before they transferred the property over. So our contractors, I think, to do both of those things have till either it's this week or next week to get the product into us, and then we'll send it to the state for their review.
All right. So by springtime, we should have the city should be the proud owner of the Burtis House and the dock, and then it becomes a question of what they're going to do with it, I guess.
Yeah, I would say springtime is a good estimate. And as to the second point, I don't think anyone has officially decided. So
Has the condition of the house been surveyed recently? Since it's
I
been
know
vacant?
our risk assessment employee was going out there to look at it along with the deputy harbor master possibly at some point. I don't know if he's done that or not, but it is. I've put them all in contact with the correct people at DNR to go in and do that. So that will be done. I don't know. I would say in the next month or so if it hasn't already been done.
Yeah, that would be a good idea to assess that before the city tries to make any plans, because there may be hidden things that need fixing, repairs, or.
Yeah, well, we also need to do it before we can put it on our insurance.
Yeah, exactly.
So it will definitely be done as part of this deal closing.
All right. We have one other bit of business that is required each year, and that is to elect a chair and a vice chair. And that somewhat goes hand in hand with what I'm going to ask everybody to keep an eye to think about for the next meeting, and that is if you look on the website, the majority of the board, and Frida, you may be the last one standing, majority of the board's terms expire in June. And the designee terms expire in December because unless they're reappointed by new or existing council members, because there's a council election coming up in the fall or in November. So I think first of all, everybody think about when your term might be, and I thought I had it. Oh, it's on the attendance report that I sent. So my term, Scott's term, Rick's term, Debbie's term, Bill Woodward's term, and Peter's term all expire. So Frida, it is all yours on July 1st.
Frida, you win by default.
Hell no.
I didn't realize we all rolled out at the same time, but we do. And then the three designees, Andy, Ward 1, Duncan, Ward 7, and Mike, you in Ward 8, all coincide with the council members. So it's, I think we need to let Hillary know if you want reappointment. So put it on your respective calendars to identify whether or not you want reappointment, to seek reappointment in June, because it has to get on the council agenda and move forward by council. But in the meantime, I will open the floor to nominations for a chair and a vice chair to serve at least until June of 2021.
I nominate Terry to be chair.
I second that nomination.
We need a vice chair, Scott. I guess I can nominate Scott as the vice chair.
Yeah, I don't think I can nominate myself.
So I'll nominate, is there a second of Scott also? Any other nominations from the floor? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I vote for Scott.
Aye.
I vote for Terry.
All right, we have a chair.
Aye,
and a
it's
vice
late.
chair. We have a chair and a vice chair until June of 2021. Let me, and then that concludes the agenda. We are just rolling right along here.
Terry, question. Just a quick
Yeah, I'm
question.
going to open it up for any other discussion.
We have a vacancy, or this says vacant there.
We do.
Do we need to put somebody up to the council before June or
Well,
any?
there's apparently, I mean, that's usually handled by, and actually, correct me if I'm wrong, that Hillary has a stack of, I call it letters of interest or whatever that form is that you fill out to say I'm interested in being on a particular committee. And then the mayor appoints from that list of people. But if certainly if we know someone who we can encourage to put their name, get their name on that list, then at least it provides that, people, that person's name is at least available to choose from. So if you've got somebody in mind, tell them to get a hold of me and I can put them in touch. I think it's Hillary that handles it now. Tammy, does that sound right? It's Hillary?
That's correct. And
That's correct. Yep.
Okay.
And is it possible to get Hillary's list of interested
You can just
people now?
use your.
I don't think she gives that out.
Okay.
Only because other boards and commissions have been asking the same thing. I believe her policy is she will accept recommendations from boards and commissions, but she doesn't give the list out to anyone but the mayor.
Okay, so we can't recommend somebody.
No, we can.
You can recommend, and she'll put them on the list, but the final list with everyone on it just goes to the mayor.
Okay. So we collectively have a recommendation. We don't know that person isn't already on the list?
Correct.
That person would know that they're already on the list, I hope.
Okay.
Because the list is generated by the applicants submitting a form. So it's not like we tell her to put somebody on the list. They have to fill out there's a form for them to fill out to list, I don't know I can't remember what the information they have to provide. It's not very onerous, but there is a form that they fill out to give to Hillary. And that's how she keeps her list. But I will also check with her about the status of any, if there's any, I would think she's aware that there's a vacancy, but I just made a note to follow up with her to remind her there is, and is there any movement to filling the vacancy at this point? Because that vacancy goes back to about a year ago now, I think, maybe longer.
Does Andy's term end at the same time as everybody else?
Andy is the Ward 1 designee. Andy's not a member. I've encouraged Andy to try to, Andy would be, if he's interested, would be a good candidate to fill the vacancy.
Okay, my fault.
Yeah, so he's always been a ward designee.
And the ward designees have until 12/21. They need to be reassigned.
That's the expiration of the council terms.
Okay.
So that's.
I just think it's nice if we can get a pretty wide variety. So I'm not sure what that would look like.
A wide variety of candidates or a wider variety on the board?
Like a wide variety on the board of people that are in different maritime industries. But I think we are now, but continue to be.
Well, if you know someone, you've got somebody in mind, certainly encourage any of us. If anybody has anybody in mind, just encourage them to be sure and submit their application. That's all.
I don't, but I'll think about it.
Yeah. The process starts with submitting your application, and then it becomes the double secret probation list, I guess, that is maintained. All right. Any other topic for the good of the organization? Hearing none, if I will entertain a motion to adjourn, and we will have an early evening this evening.
So moved.
Debbie
Second.
has moved.
Second.
Rita has seconded. All in favor? Aye.
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 Julian, thank you very much. You can end our